Hi, everybody. It's time for another edition of This is the Bronx at Noon. And today we are at the Department of Health Neighborhood Action Center. The director of the center is Kim Freeman, and she is with me for a very special and frankly extraordinary exhibit called Undesign the Red Line. Why is the Department of Health talking about redlining?
Not just having a doctor doesn't contribute to your health. So there are other factors, such as the neighborhoods you live in, your access to fresh fruits and vegetables, your housing situation. All those things contribute to the health, the holistic health of a person. So this exhibit looks at an historical practice that has lasting impacts to today. This is where the exhibit starts, and basically it just has a snapshot of the Bronx map, but it talks about how the explicit racism of the Jim Crow era was redlining was used to make it a structural issue. So redlining is an example of how racism was structured in our society as a whole.
Part two of this exhibit is here in the basement, and that's where we find Allison. Hello, Allison.
Hi, how you doing? This is an interactive exhibit. It allows you, there are yellow pins and there are white pins. What we ask participants to do is to pin where they used to live and where they currently live.
All right, so do we want to use you as a test case?
Sure. No.
Where did you live?
I currently live in Co-op City, which on this map is the section is white, but it's surrounded by yellow. It's white because it was going to be an airport at the time. And here's where I used to live in Parkchester. While these areas are not red, they're the next step above red.
It's like the yellow light in the corner. Caution.
Yes, it's still caution.
Here we are with Lizette. Lizette has the responsibility of talking about this rather incredible chronology that they put together about the history of redlining in the Bronx. Go to it, Lizette. What do we got?
Okay, so this timeline here presents the history surrounding redlining. So we begin in the 1800s with the Jim Crow era, and also the beginning of the early civil rights movement.
In each case, there was an action and then a reaction from the community. That's our Bronx, folks. In this part of the exhibit, guess who we find? It's Ryan. What do you got?
We're going to talk about some of the lessons and tools that were pulled out of the timeline that you just went over. So looking at the Amalgamated Housing Cooperative, that was the first housing cooperative in America, started by the Amalgamated Clothing Workers, and it became the model for tens of thousands of housing cooperatives throughout New York City.
And now we're getting to the end of the exhibit, and look who I find here. Once again, we've got Kim. Kim, what does this all mean, and what really do you want people to take away from this entire expansive exhibit that you put together?
Yeah, what it means is that these historical racist practices have had lasting effects in our neighborhood, but also that our neighborhood, our community residents are resilient. They have found creative ways to solve their problems, and so we want people to come to this exhibit to see and learn about this practice, but also become a part of the conversation to talk about how we can undesign this, how we can undo these practices so that our communities could be what we want them to be.
To me, what I learned, maybe more than anything else, out of my short tour, folks who come here are going to get the much more expansive tour than that, is that every time there was an action, there was a reaction by the people of the Bronx. And they weren't told what to do, they just came up with it. And you know why? Because this is the Bronx.